Good evening. See this smirk on my face? This smirk right here? It's because I have two of my nearest and dearest friends on the show tonight. One I have known a little longer than the other. The inimitable George R. Lopez has been in my world, in my sphere, in my atmosphere, in my heart, my mind, and my soul since I believe 2013. And I met Ken DeCosta about a year later. And it was magnetic, just coming together of the minds, like a brother, a long lost brother. I mean, we finish each other's sentences. It's a wonder and a joy for me to bring both of them onto the show tonight. For those who, I can't imagine that there's anybody out there that doesn't know that George and I wrote a book together that we released in 2015 called In a Flicker, and we'll talk about that some tonight. And of course, next weekend I will be up in Rhode Island for my eye itches for the Ocean State Paracon with. I'm sorry, it's allergies, it's stuff. With Ken and Julie DeMay, Julie Griffin, Jacqueline Nunez, the new owner of the farmhouse. And we are going to have an extraordinary time up in southern New England, shall we say. So without further ado, I don't want to waste a moment. Let's just bring both of these guys on and tear it up for 2 hours. I don't know if you guys saw what I posted about the show, but they give you that little thing, you write something about before you share the link. And I put, join us, she said. It'll be fun, she said. And yes, it will. Yes, it will. I'm delighted to have both of you on, and it is my privilege and my pleasure. First of all, before we talk about anything else, let's talk about your show on KGRA. Because I know it sounds only vaguely familiar, Ken, but if we could, Bill, why don't you hop in since you produce all of us? And
man,
well, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, George. Yeah. Just bury yourself in the coffee for just a minute.
There goes the show.
Lord. There goes right straight to hell.
I was promised by Bill if I did this show, I'd finally get a company car. I still haven't seen
it. Yeah, but it's a Matchbox car, George. I already got mine. The dog likes to play with it, but it's worthless to me.
I'll take it.
Actually, their show is syndicated on KGRADB.com.
Hey.
They do.
Yeah, I know mine too.
Yes. That's right. Everybody here is syndicated. But they do a tremendous job on Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern. I joke with them because, like some other shows, I get my munchies and my drink, and all I do is sit here because George is in total control and Ken of operating behind the scenes, what they do on their show.
They do.
But I enjoy watching their show. I'm a big fan, so hopefully George will come up to something that you're going to discuss later.
Yes.
And I'll be able to meet both of them and yourself, of course, Annie, at that location, hopefully in the future.
Sounds ominous.
Ooh, stay tuned.
Everyone's serious.
I got one
where
question.
Could it be? What could we possibly be talking about?
I am not saying anything, but is it possible to do a skywatch there?
That's pretty much all I do. When I'm not inside, I'm outside. And I almost always have a boatload of people with me, and not once, not a single time has it ever disappointed. In fact, the last time I was there, I was filming for a Paramount Plus production that's coming out around Halloween or on Halloween. And we had not even gone in the house yet. And I told everyone to stop talking, stand around me, follow my finger, and watch what was crossing the sky. because it was a busy night. There were lots of stars. The sky was very clear. And here comes this translucent thing that all you can see is the ring around it, a ring of light around it, but you could see right through it, or you're like mostly it was translucent. And we watched it go from over the barn to over the back cow pasture, and then poof, it was gone in a completely clear sky. And there were lots of oohs and ahs, and I was like, okay, let's go in the house and shoot and get this over with. I think they were a little taken back by my rather nonchalant attitude, but after you've been doing this as long as I have, it's kind of a matter of course. But yes, the short answer to the question is yes.
The reason I say that, I have a 5x7 foot projector screen and a projector and the camera that I use for my sky watches. It would be cool if I set that up so that everybody could just look at that screen if they want and see what's going on above.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well,
sounds like a plan. And Ken's going to have gizmos and gadgets. And, if I can get George up there, if he brings his spirit box, we'll be rocking it. We will be He's master of spirit box as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's an honor to produce and have all of you on KGRADB.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And George,
pleasure's ours.
This for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great show.
Thank you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
I'm pretty sure Ken promised that we can bring some Onyx Moonshine when we go on Halloween.
I'm going to pick some up.
Yeah, oh my God.
Nobody gets out alive.
Paint thinner.
Really quick. Go ahead.
It's paint thinner, but go ahead. So.
It is paint thinner.
It is. It'll clean your pipes. It'll clean your pipes. Hey,
and then when you have enough of it, you start drunk calling everybody on your cell phone list, drunk calling Jason Hawes, and just,
Hey, we're here. Where are you? Hey, we're here. Where are you? Yeah, nice. That's nice. That's
I wanted to
bloating.
tell you, too, when we were at the farmhouse, July, last month, we actually did have a sighting in the sky. And I don't say those things lightly, but we couldn't figure out what it is. And I know somebody has a video of it.
Good.
And trying to get a hold of it. But this thing was booking across the sky. And immediately we thought International Space Station. So you can go online and look that up.
And find out where it is. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And it was somewhere over Rio de Janeiro at the time.
Yeah.
So it was nowhere near us. So I'm not ruling out satellite, but there didn't seem to be anything like that in our flight path. So I'm going to confirm that if you spend a little time outside at night, the chances are good that you might see something anomalous. And we just went out for a breath of air and, let's go scope the skies. And sure enough, within about 10 minutes, everybody was just, what the hell is that? So it's well worth a while.
Yes, it really is. And also, let's not forget, that we're seasoned professionals here. So we know how to cheat with Star Chart. I mean, you can load that app into your phone in 2.5 seconds and hold it right up. And believe me,
sure.
if it's not supposed to be there, that'll show. And it really is cheating, but it helps some people to identify things. So yeah, that's great. But I'm also very, very interested in what's going on in the house, and we will talk about that at some length. But first and foremost, I want to welcome George especially to the show because he hasn't been on since the relaunch.
Nope.
And I think there's probably this book that I see up behind him and Black Pegasus that bears some significance to it that I would like to give him a chance to talk about and share along with some of our fond memories of writing it together. So, George, the floor is yours.
Well, we haven't mentioned the fact that we are co-authors on this book, and yet I have never been to the Conjuring House in all these years. Never. How many times have you been there, Ken? Shut up,
eight,
Ken.
8 or 9 now. But please, go ahead and finish this diatribe. It's been about 15 minutes since you've gone
Never,
into this, so go ahead.
ladies and gentlemen, been to the Conjuring House.
Well, you drove past it. You want to tell people about that? Back when, the Wicked Witch of the Northeast lived there, and I had to hide in the back seat, and you and Zappis were in the front. Remember that little thing? I think that was in 2015 or 2016 when you came up for the Ocean State Paracon.
Yeah.
That was pretty intense, George. That place calls to you. I know that it does, and I know that we've had too many bizarre instances, and I believe most of which, if not all of which, Ken is familiar with, because either you or I told him about you calling me in the middle of the night and saying, I see Cindy out behind the barn sitting on a piece of metal. You have a scar on your shoulder from
the nail going into the basement.
A nail sticking out that goes down into the cellar, which I absolutely do.
Yeah.
That you've done so much remote viewing there. You must feel a sense of familiarity with the place and have a familial sense of the place. But tell folks what happened as we rounded the corner onto what was the original property as we were driving up Round Top Road. Zaffis was behind the wheel. I was hiding in the back seat.
It was unexpected, and it has sparked a curiosity that when I finally have the privilege to visit the farmhouse, that I want to kind of delve into what this connection was. But as we were coming up, as Andrea said, to the farmhouse, that an anxiety had taken over me, and then there was a mantra or a panic, to a sense where all I kept hearing in my head is, I don't want to go back. 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 And I had never been there before. And once we had passed the property, it subsided. But it was, white knuckle terror that came out of nowhere. And again, for somebody like myself, no different like Ken as well. I've investigated countless locations, haunted asylums and hospitals and prisons, and I've never had something like this before. And so something is connected there. And Andrew and I had quite a lengthy conversation one night about how everybody seems connected to that, how Ken does, how Zaffis did, that there seems to be some sort of a genetic link that goes back to this property, and how we've all kind of found each other again. So when I have the opportunity to go there, I am curious to find answers to why that had occurred and what the connection was. And the remote viewing was something completely different, and it was just visions that were constantly hitting me here at home. And I would just contact Andrea and say, these are things that I'm experiencing, where the Christmas tree was, or what the light fixture was. And I can't explain it. So the idea is to try to get more answers. And that's the hope and prayer, if and when I get up there.
When?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cheryl, I'd love to pack my bags and get going. Trust me, I would. I'd love to get up there as quickly as possible. But there are other priorities and responsibilities for me down here first. But we will try to make it a reality sometime here in the near future.
Yeah.
And very quickly, as far as the book is concerned, this was a story. Andrew and I did a lot of road trips back in the day to do lectures at all the different paranormal events. And that takes a lot of time on the road, anywhere from 11 to 16 to 22 hours, taking some of these road trips up the Eastern Seaboard. And, just on one of our trips, I decided to tell her this story that I'd had in my mind for 25 years. And by the time that I was done with it, and her mind was blown, and she said, "You got to write this." And I said, "I'm not a writer." She goes, "I am." So just start it, and we'll get it all together when it needs to be. So I did about I think 240 pages when the rough draft was completed, and that expanded out to 440, I think, is how many pages are in there. So but it is an incredible tale. It is a very graphic novel. And as Andrew just said, it's tough. It's a tough read. If you like things that are gut wrenching you're going to be feeling it at your core, it's visceral. It really 100% puts you in the mindset of what is going on in those pages. And the way I've always described it, because the first third of the book is setting up the story. So it's a little bit of that. Think of a roller coaster and that clickety clackety going up. Once you reach the second third of the book, it's just forget it. It's a roller coaster ride all the way to the last page. So, in a flicker, great venture for us, and incredible reviews on Amazon. So and I saw some people in there already saying, "Yeah, I've got that book." Please, if you have not put a review on Amazon, take the time to do that. We'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, we would really appreciate it. Because it's kind of unfairly gotten lost in the fray of everything that's been going on in both of our lives, and it deserves attention, because it is the most fascinating amalgamation of history and mystery. I've just never, I tell everybody, George, I could never, ever have conjured that story up in my own imagination. All credit to you. All I did was, you gave me this big, huge clump of clay, and I carved it with you. You worked on one side, I worked on the other. Every now and then we'd kind of meet in the middle. We both had knives. Oh my God.
But it was painful. Even when we went through the proofread, it was painful, because there are parts of this that are so difficult. And even in doing my research, I had to step away. And then once I was putting it on paper, it tears you to the core. And Andrea is a very, she submerges herself when she does any kind of reading or any type of work. And when we would proofread back and we'd hit these spots, she'd turn it over to me. She just I can't even go into this.
Pouring, and we had worked on it for 2.5 years, gone over these same things over and over and over again, and fine-tuned it and honed it and sculpted it.
Yeah, we had to.
And polished it. Yep. And still, on our final read-through before we hit send to the publisher, I still couldn't help but cry. And it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the weak of stomach. But if you are fascinated by history, here's the thing about it that I've said a multitude of times. If you walk up to anyone and ask them if they've ever heard of Jack the Ripper, the answer is yes. And then if you ask that same individual if they know the names of any of his victims, you get the deer in the headlights look. Yeah. And so, as I've said, these women were victimized twice, not only by this maniacal killer, but also by history itself, because they were lost to the annals of time. They ceased to be the factor, that they ceased to be individuals that had lives.
They ceased to be, period.
Yeah.
They ceased to be, period. But interesting part to it, too, that I wanted to note, Andrea, like anybody else, that would be looking at the career, if you will, or the profession of prostitution, kind of was taken aback by, these people, until as we were writing this and as we were reading this, and she was looking at the characters and going, they had no other choice.
Nope.
This is how the women in the day, they had to survive with their wits or with their wealth or with their and we dive right into all of that in this story. So make sure you guys do check it out. I don't want to wax on about it, other than the fact that it's I don't have children. This is my baby, and I absolutely am so proud to give birth to this and for you guys to have the opportunity to read it. And again, if you've read it or you're going to get it, it's on Amazon. It's on every platform you need, Barnes and Nobles. Please put a review. It's so important. Please put a review in there for us. Even though it's, it was published in 2015, I still get some. I think the last one was April 2022. Somebody had put some kind of a review in there. So check out the reviews yourself, even guys, and then come back to it. And then I started doing a show with Ken.
Yes, you did.
Right around the same time.
Ken,
I want to just, if I could, say a little bit about the book. I probably read it long before anybody else did. I was one of the few that got to read, the manuscript, really.
Yes.
And I am very much a fan of procedural books, whether that's John Grisham or Tom Clancy, to name two, where they take you through a story in great detail. So I was immediately drawn to this, and it was like, maybe a 2.5 day read for me. Because when I say that there are elements to the book where Lucy pulls the football out from under you, I mean that in the greatest sense, because you're compelled to read on. There are elements of the book that may make you recoil for a little bit in horror sometimes, but nonetheless, it is just so compelling. So just wanted to put that out there as well. We joke a lot about the book on our show, and it's kind of a bit we do in a running gag, but and George knows this. The truth is, it's incredibly provocative, and I cannot possibly suggest you run out and order this book. There you go, in a flicker, because it combines elements of things that you're familiar with and introduces things that you'd have a hard time just correlating in your mind. What does this have to do with this? But combines elements of science and horror and crime and history.
Technology.
So, go get the book. Just go get
it. Thanks.
We'll wait.
Yeah.
We'll wait.
And what's scary part of it is that it's based on history. So we could not make mistakes because there are aficionados that are out there that know every nuance of this part of history. Yep. So the amount of work we had to do and fact check and recheck was arduous, and it was detailed, but it made the book better. It definitely made the book better.
We even had a woman who was a genuine Brit go through it and just to see if there was any reference that we had made that was not appropriate to, proper English from like the east side of London, which is primarily the setting. And we had made several references to walking blocks of the city. And she called us up and she said, we don't call them that. Nobody would ever refer to
blocks
to that as a block. And so George gets on the search button. We have to go through the entire manuscript to make sure everywhere that word appears, we have to go back and change it out for another word that was appropriate for, we were that much a stickler. Both of us were. In terms of the detail. And, anybody familiar with my writing knows that, I think that you assimilate your reader. It becomes interactive literature when there is so much detail that they feel like they're experiencing it with you as they're reading it. I very often hear that about the trilogy and the Farmhouse. Readers write to me and say they feel like they were there and lived with us. And know every member of my family intimately well, like they experienced it at the same time that we did. And that is the beauty of really detailed work. One of my friends, after he read it, one of my childhood friends who spent many, many happy days at that farm, I called him up after I felt that I had given him adequate time to read through the first volume. And and because he's such an intellectual giant, and I also know him well enough to know that he would be honest with me, I sent him one of the original copies that I received. And about 3 weeks later, I called him and I said, well, have you at least started it? And he said, I finished it in 2 days, which is almost impossible because the first book is, I think, 530 pages in the trilogy. And I said, well, and this was his one sentence to me. I could smell the chicken grease left on the stove from when your mom made fried chicken the night before. I was there again, all over again. And, and to me, that was like, oh, thank God, because even though he had a familiarity, knew my family extremely well. I knew, he was the eldest of 5 boys. I was the eldest of 5 girls. We were very close. Both of our families were close. He never had an experience at the farm. The spirits left him alone entirely, but he never once questioned what I was telling him about what was happening at that place while we were living there. Not once did he challenge me or look at me suspiciously like, you can't be making this shit up, right? No, not once, because he knew me even as a child. I mean, we met when I was 12, and he knew that I was an honest soul, and he could see the distress that I was, and duress that we were living under. And it took him right back to that time, took him back 45 years to that time. And so I'm very glad about that. And In a Flicker, I really do believe accomplishes that same, it's almost like it takes on a life of its own. It's very strange. It's almost like the story itself has consciousness. And I wrote the dedication, and it was to the women of history who make history. And it had to be that, because I've told George openly and honestly, I don't think that I could have written it with him otherwise. I don't. It had to be from that perspective of the women, because I am well known as a feminist, and it changed me to write that story with him. It changed me. I became less judgy, preachy, and more open-minded about the way that these women had to live in order to survive. If they weren't born into wealth and property, if they didn't marry well, they were screwed. And there were no shortage of prostitutes on the streets of London in 1888, ripe for the picking. And Jack the Ripper helped himself to the spoils. So I'm very proud of it, George, and I'm proud of the work that we did, our diligence and our fortitude, our sensitivity to the subject matter. And I'm never writing another book with you again as long as I live. You're on your own.
It was tough, but you did have certain priorities, certain things that you wanted to have in place, but at the same time, I definitely fought with you, and I won when you wanted to say Jack the Ripper was abducted by aliens. So we found a compromise in between. That was the important part.
You're such a dick, honest to God.
Hey, listen, writing fiction.
Oh, I'm sorry. Lenny told me to be nice to you.
Thank you, Lenny.
Writing fiction based on history is not an easy task because every writer has a bit of themselves in that book, an insight into their personalities. But when you're writing something that's really not autobiographical at all, I mean, there may be part of you in some of the characters. I think you can't help but do that. But it's not an easy thing to do when you go back and, especially if you're reimagining a story. What if you're playing the what if type of thing? It's not easy to do. But I'm glad you guys use the English to Cockney translation on Google for that.
Well, you know something? It was in terms of the English, in terms of getting the vernacular correct, that was the least of our issues, even though it took a lot of time. George did countless hours of research. I mean, he did. And he would present me with something and with an idea. We'd be talking around Skype till, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, because it was I was still living in Georgia with my mother and my sister, and it was the only time the house was quiet, and we could, really work diligently along and get a lot accomplished. But the thing is that he knew, oh, and God, it's going to kill me to say this. He knew his own mind and his own vision, his own image of what he wanted this to be. And he would give me an idea and I'd say, okay, I got it. I'll run with it. And then I'd work for 5, 6, 7 hours on a paragraph or two to, try to get it exactly right. And he'd read it, and in 10 minutes, he's like, nope, that's out. That's gone. That wasn't the intention at all. You completely misread this. At which point, my hackles are up like, what the fuck, man? I just killed myself for hours and hours to write 2 perfect paragraphs that you just threw out in the trash in a split second because it wasn't in keeping with your mental direction that you want this to go in. And it was frustrating in the extreme, and yet every single time he was right. And the very worst of this book, and what I mean by worst is the toughest part to read is extricated directly from the annals of English history. Coroner's reports. What was it, George? The police reports. The autopsies. The eyewitnesses after the fact. Stuff like that. That just, I felt like I had aged a decade when we were done. I felt like my heart had been ripped out of my body. I don't think I was ever so relieved to see something published and done, and that I would not have to revisit again.
There was a
ladies
part.
And gentlemen, this is the Lennon and McCartney of the literary world.
This is, I'll tell you one of the things. So, and I don't want to wax on further on the book. We got a lot of things to cover on the show, but I wanted to bring this up, and I don't know if I ever really even brought this topic up with either Ken or Andrea, but one of the things that I needed to do was to get in the mind of a serial killer, to get into the mind of someone like Jack the Ripper, to take that mentality. And the book will explain why. I don't want to go into further detail as to that. But so one of the things, and I think the internet, even in 2015, was more of a Wild West than it is today. And I happened to come across videos of serial killers, and one particular, if you guys remember the HBO series Don't F with Cats, and there was this Canadian lunatic, Luca Magnotta, and he carved his sex partner to death. That was still on the internet. And I came across that, not knowing that it would be the full-on film. And I saw the first 18 seconds of it and had to turn away, and that will never leave my mind. It will never leave my mind. So think of it in the sense of what these women went through when you read this, what they endured. And I think that's the hardest part. Is I'm watching some of the people in the chat uh, reflect on their experiences reading these books, saying, even though this sounds bad, it was even worse reading it. Just to give you an idea, prepare. Just like I prepared, just like Andrew prepared, each of the readers, you guys got to prepare for this when you do read it. But I hope you do. I hope you do, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And do let us know. Reach out to us, me on Buttercup Brigade, because Lenny is always keeping an eye on Buttercup. As you know, so if you want to reach out to me personally, that's probably the fastest way to get to me there, through Lynn. And, George, of course, is easy to find as well. And you can always hop into the chat on either of our shows. I want to talk about, now we'll move on for a few minutes, because I want to talk about your new show on KGRA in full syndication worldwide. Where all three of us are truly blessed, truly, to know Bill Forte and the owners and the management of KGRA that have embraced us and our platform fully. Nobody, I don't know about you guys. Well, actually I do, because I know Bill. Nobody ever said to me, you can't do that. You can't say that. And I started with Tony Rathman, who I'm sure at some point will be back, when things stabilize, his work situation changed. But he was, my original co-host and producer. And I miss Tony terribly. He's so wonderful. But, if there was anyone that would be able to fill his shoes, just step in seamlessly into that role and let me run with this, it was Bill Forte. And I'm so grateful to have been given this opportunity and, to have it simultaneously happen. The first night that Bill called me, I was on the USS Salem on the Sea Witch in Boston Harbor, and it was 11:15. And, there's a UFO hanging like right over General Dynamics where Julie DeMay works. And, I'm like, okay, I'm taking pictures here, and my phone won't stop dinging over and over and over again. I did get fabulous pictures, by the way. I'll share them with you. I finally just answered the phone. It was 11:15. And Bill introduces himself as the general manager of KGRA. And he says, I would really, really like to, bring your show, A World Awakening, onto our network. And do you know anybody else that's doing a show? We're going to expand the network and just allow it to blossom, to flower, to come into its own in terms of the full spectrum of people, different dynamics, different personalities, different guests. Who do you know that, after I basically told him, if Tony's all in, then I'm all in, because he had talked to Tony first. And I said, George Lopez and Ken DeCosta. And he's boom. It just happened immediately.
Who the hell is that?
Hey.
So I'm going to take a little tiny modicum of credit for bringing your fabulous show to his attention.
15
because
years.
You're where you belong now. You're out there where you belong, where you have the farthest reach, and you can impress the most people with your intellectual prowess, your wit, your wisdom, your sage advice, and some extraordinary guests that between the two of you, you seem to know and, bring into the fold, into the sphere. So congratulations to both of you for what you have created. It's really, it's a masterful broadcast.
Thank you. And yes, we were lucky that, among other people, you were very prominent in that, as far as recommending, hear these guys out, because we came from a channel that had about 10,000 subscribers.
Mhm.
And for different reasons, that just wasn't working for us. So we wanted to be able to branch out, have some creative control. And on our channel, Dead Air, Full Spectrum, we have a lot of that. We have a lot of different shows. It's not just talk. I have one where I tell stories. We have two great friends of ours, Chris Rondina and Bill Murphy, who are on there talking about legendary monsters. Monday Night Monsters, Cody and Satori every other week when their schedule allows. They come on and they have just the greatest dynamic between the two of them. But I think that in that time, it just kind of worked out because we had a lot of discussions about kind of moving on and let's start something from scratch. And it was at that same time where we were just having these discussions, George and I, that we were contacted by Bill Forte. He introduced himself and, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. You know,
Mhm.
Andrea Perrin and some other people said, and we were just kind of like, wow, maybe this was meant to be because it just happened at that particular time. So we've had a hell of a ride so far. And as you say, we have been very blessed to have some tremendous guests because, you know, unless you've done this and you know what I'm talking about, when you have a 2-hour slot, I mean, you have to have some type of experience in doing this to get the best out of people and keep things moving. It's certainly not easy. So I guess some of the requisites is we try to get people who are great conversationalists. They don't have to be A-listers. We take great pride, and I know you do too, in
Yep.
introducing people
Yes.
to our audience. It's like, okay, they don't have a show, and it's like, just hear them out because we know them and they have something to say. And one of the things that I think George will back me up that we're proud of is that we have emphasized females on this show
Yep.
in
Yep.
the paranormal. And we're kind of maybe a 60-40 split on that because oftentimes their background music, so to speak, on these shows. And, you know, they aren't given the position of leaders. But I think the biggest thing that we try to do is stay away from and I know George can expound on this. I know everybody wants to hear ghost stories. You know, what's the scariest place you've ever been to? What's the most frightened you've ever been? Because everybody wants to hear a ghost story, but what we try to endeavor to do is find out something about these people. You know, who they are away from this, what defines them. So we can't thank KGRA enough for giving us this platform to do that. And we look toward a very long association with them and just keep having fun. You know, if we enjoy what we're doing, you're welcome to come along with us.
Yeah. Dead Air, Full Spectrum is an offshoot viral infection that spawned from the pandemic. Like so many, when you know,
Creative endeavors did
we were
and
home,
continue to.
and technology just continued to flow and be presented to us, and StreamYard came about, and they said, you know, we love this. This seems to be idiot proof, which is perfect for Ken and I.
Perfect
So
for us.
we went with it.
pressure
We
off.
ran with it big time. So, you know, Dead Air, the actual name itself is 15 years old. 15 years old. We started off on a small block talk radio phone interview, and boy, did we have some great shows.
We did.
You know,
We did.
we have some fantastic holiday shows, and you know, we would get random calls, and Andrew would be on the show, John Zaffris would call in randomly.
Keith Johnson at 10:30 every night. You know.
Yeah, and every night, Keith, we're about to get off the air. What do you got for us? And he would show up, renowned demonologist, and Ben Hansen on a couple of different occasions would just call in randomly too. I mean, it was a show you had Coast to Coast, Darkness Radio, and right on their coattails was Dead Air. It was just there wasn't much out there like what we were producing and bringing on, and again, phenomenal guests, recognizable guests within the field, including Andrea, including Chip Coffey, John Zaffis. God, we had the incredible Grant Wilson come on and make the announcement about his retirement and why he was retiring on our show, not any other show, on our show. It just, I think, just crossed barriers that hadn't happened before, and it made it exciting. And we did this for a long time. Then we took a hiatus. We came back. We tried it on one YouTube network, and that didn't work out. Just irreconcilable differences with the channel owner, and so it just was kismet for it to wind up working with KGRA, DB.com, with Bill Forte, and in getting this show going back again. And it has been a fantastic ride with fantastic guests and talking some serious topics. Ken, why don't you talk about the time we had Michelle Belanger on, because you guys have to go back and watch that show also. So go ahead.
If you haven't seen that, and this is what we mean by some kind of creative control. We had the fascinating and very interesting Michelle Belanger on maybe 2 months ago. And she had to cancel the first time. She was ill. So it took a little bit to get this thing going. So finally she came on, and at some point during the show, because the world had changed quite a bit within the few days preceding that show. And I had asked her, I want to talk about Roe v. Wade. And she was just, I don't know how, she was just, yes, let's do it.
Chomping at the bit.
And we just went that route, which is totally, how do you bring this back around home to the paranormal? The basis of it really quickly was if states are allowed to take precedence over federal law, those of you in the paranormal field who are pagans, Wiccans, voodooists, they're coming for you next. They're coming for you next. Because if you don't fit into the Christian kind of mindset that everybody else has now, we're not sure we want you around. And this, of course, goes for, contraception, gay rights, same-sex marriage, everything like that. So that's how we related it back to it. And I don't know, George, we probably went 40 minutes on that discussion, and it was very insightful and very impassioned. And we were allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And we don't mind breaking the norms sometimes.
Correct.
And this is what I mean by getting to know who people are, because the easiest thing in the world, oh, Michelle, what's the scariest place you've ever been to?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, which is fine. I mean, I understand it. We allow our viewers who are phenomenal. I think we have the smartest viewers.
I agree.
They ask better questions than we do sometimes. It pisses me off. But
me too.
Damn
it. Why didn't I think of that?
I know, right? So we allow them that latitude because, they want to know, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with relating your life experiences. But when we bring people on, I know that a lot of times they're not used to this type of thing. They appreciate it, but they're not used to it. When you ask them something that's thought-provoking, they're just kind of like,
yeah.
It's like almost it's like, oh, wow, we're going to go there. It's like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, tell us what you think about the world. I mean, I don't, the scariest place you've ever been, that's great. Tell us.
I can tell you the scariest place I've ever been, and it's called Planet Earth.
Yeah, I can tell you, I mean, and not calling any particular ones out, but there's been a couple of people we've had on the show, recognizable personalities, and would ask questions that just would take them aback, and then, no pun intended, dead air. That's a good question. I never thought of that. And it's
What's
like,
this got to do with the paranormal?
we got to play the Jeopardy music now. I just like, what? So, but that's the whole thing about it, is that, look, and I would not mind, for us to engage a little bit in talking about the paranormal and paranormal investigating, even during this interview, because a lot of you guys out there, that's what you gravitate to. And what it is we're talking about. Yeah, we talked about the books and the shows and all that stuff, but I know that that's something that really fascinates all of you, and it definitely fascinates us as well.
Well, I do want to do that too, George, because, you and I have had a few
ventures,
spirit box sessions.
Oh, yeah.
That were really fascinating that I would like to, to share with. And Ken and I have had some experiences at the farmhouse that were just mind blowing in recent months. And so, I would really like to, address all of those things. But just getting back for one moment to what you were saying about the eclectic mix of guests and topics.
Mm-hmm.
When you and I started A World Awakening back in, I don't know, 2013 or 2014, as just a little blog talk show.
Right.
We had some phenomenal guests between people that you knew, mostly people that you knew, because I was still relatively new to the, the paranormal, I just didn't know as many people as you did.
Right.
You're the one that introduced me to Zaphis. You're the one that introduced me to Grant and to Jay.
Right.
And they were the first professionals that actually investigated the farmhouse at the request of the previous owner, whose name shall not be mentioned. I saw the benefit of it then, even though there were times that, we butted heads on subjects. I mean, we were getting to know each other too. And so we'd catch each other off guard. Sometimes, my opinion about something would be different, but it was always respectful and we always learned from each other. But the most important thing is that the audience that we had and that we built up over time for that show that we did together for about somewhere between 2.5 and 3 years, had a dramatic impact. People still talk to me about the show that we did together, A World Awakening, and then we, shut it down for a while, and then I brought it back, at the beginning of the pandemic with Tony, because
before that, you took a hiatus for a little while there because of family needs that you need to take care of, something similar to what I'm taking care of right now. And, during that time, the remarkable and never forgettable Rosemary Ellen Guiley filled those shoes for, not a long time, a couple of months. And, it was just wonderful to interact and work with her also. May she rest in peace. And then again, that's when we had to part ways with that show, and then again bring it back here at this point in time. And I'll tell you something about the butting heads part of it. Nothing has changed because even on Dead Air now, Ken and I, we have a multitude of discussions where we will take the yin and the yang and debate that. Not so much with the guests, but again, we're not here to be yes men. We've done that, and we've been on those shows where we'll just give our answers to stuff, and everybody's in agreement with it. No, test us.
Yeah, that's
test us and make our viewers think about what we're talking about. My perspective versus your perspective versus the guest perspective versus the viewer's perspective, and then let them ask questions that come up on the bottom of the screen that boom hit you right between the eyes. It's like, oh my God, how did they get there from here? And wow, I've had so many wow moments over the years doing, your original show, doing the original World Awakening, now, being on your show several different times. We're not trying to be, disagree with me if you want to. I'm not trying to be some kind of ultra provocative person. I just speak my truth. This is my perspective. This is my frame of reference. This is based on my experiences. What are yours? And that is what blows people's minds wide open. And I think that the only way that we, as a singular race, the human race, is the only way we're going to make any forward momentum, any progress toward, a heightened understanding and our own spiritual evolution, is to use what God gave us. Use the human mind, tap into that cosmic consciousness, that unified field of energy, and mix it up, because that's what opens new doors.
Well,
you further science, or if we want to limit it to the paranormal field, you challenge conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
You give a compelling argument for or against. So I know with us, we'll never ambush anybody. We're not there for the gotcha moment. We have too much respect for the people who come on and want to talk to us. But we will challenge not only their particular point of views, but we'll challenge our own too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like, okay, tell me why I'm wrong. But again, it comes back to challenging convention, or at least ask questions, because nothing ever moves forward if we just repeat the same mantras and theories over and over again until somebody finally comes along and says, hey, what if? Let me ask, because we hear that. It's a cookie cutter thing. It's like someone hears something on television and it's repeated as the gospel, because, television is a very powerful thing. But those people who are able to take a step back and look at things from 10,000 feet and be able to say, well, why? Why do we believe that? So that's the thing that I think kind of interests us a little bit. When we just ask people the simple question, the 5W, who, what, where, why, and let them have their platform to say, well, this is why I believe in this kind of thing, but never be afraid to just ask why.
Yeah.
And the other thing, never be afraid to say, these are horrible words in the paranormal field, but never be afraid to say, I don't know.
Yep, 3 words, simple words.
It's okay to say, I don't know.
But Andrea, I'll say this, just like you said, how when we were doing the show and it opened doors for you, or I opened doors for you with all the different people. When I do the show with Ken, I am so relaxed in knowing that if the guest goes towards a specific topic, right, wrong, or otherwise, I've got the human encyclopedia of the paranormal right there, that I can actually get up and go get a cup of coffee while Ken fact checks them right there on the air. Or if they start talking about a particular case and a particular history, and Ken's naming off the exact same place and location, I go, Ken, go do what it's just a full-on volume encyclopedia of knowledge from the field.
I appreciate that, George. Thank you. I just wish this knowledge was like for the good of mankind or something. Yeah. I wish I could cure something with this.
Or you can card count and poker, something like that.
Yeah. I think that it is for, I know it's tongue in cheek what you're saying, but I think that it is for the benefit of humankind. I think that what we do is beneficial. Not just because we filled a very necessary spot for people during, a global pandemic that had everybody stuck at home. Thank God the internet didn't crash when literally every school lesson, every, business meeting, everything happened on what my friend Aaron likes to call the interwebs. It gave us the freedom to continue to do what we do without, with the benefit of being able to interact with our viewers, our listeners, our readers in a way that we couldn't any other way, because no one was gathering, no one was coming together. Every Paracon was canceled, not postponed, canceled. Yeah. It was a very scary time. I think that we should dare to think back pre-vaccine and remember how it was and how everyone was on really shaky ground. We were afraid to go out of our own homes. George, I know how terrified you were about your father.
Scary.
I know how terrified I was about mine. I thought he was going to climb the walls after 2 or 3 months. I laid around and cried and watched the news and slept a lot and ate ice cream, and he paced the house like a caged animal. It was a terrifying few months. It really was. Before we all kind of got our bearings. Well, not all, a lot didn't. I often feel like the whole frickin' world's losing its mind right now. But this was an outlet, not just for us, but for everyone who engaged with us. Everyone who engaged with us. It was an escape. And the thing I found most pertinent and profound about it was that in, the new age of COVID, in this paradigm shift that is, still ongoing, but seemed to be catapulted into our faces with COVID. And everybody was losing people, either knew someone who lost a loved one or lost loved ones themselves. And there was so much grief to process, so much grief. And, what an important, I would even say imperative time to address the notion that they did not die alone, that someone was waiting for them on the other side, and that life goes on and that they don't really leave us. They have just transformed into another realm where we can still retain contact, where we can still have some kind of communication. If anyone doubts that, please feel free to watch a few episodes of Cody and Satori do what they do, which I believe is a quantum leap into the future of the paranormal. Yeah. I'm just think about everything that came to the surface. Now, what they're doing now began at the very beginning of the pandemic, and they didn't tell anybody what they were doing because, frankly, they didn't believe it themselves, because nothing like that had ever been recorded or had ever happened that anyone knew of before. And so, again, part of the paradigm shift, and as our world events unfolded and we kind of folded them into the dough of our own shows, talking about, an attack on the Capitol and the insurrection, talking about the murder of George Floyd, talking about the pandemic, talking about the vaccine rollout, talking about the fact that Beirut blew up from sheer neglect, talking about everything that's been going on at the same time, and yet constantly referencing it back into, now, how does this apply to what we're talking about? And how does, any notion of the existence of a galactic family factor into the equation of all of this? I mean, to say that, the three-dimensional doors were blown wide open and each one of us fearlessly stepped into a multi-dimensional universe that we were not afraid to discuss, confront, and consider. I think is a testament not only to each of us individually, and of course my partner at the time, Tony, but who was like all in with me about this. Nothing was off the table, not ever. And then of course, we've got Bill, who is as open-minded a human being as I've ever known, and constantly craving new information. He loves what he does. He loves our shows because not only does he sit there playing with all of his screens and his gizmos and his gadgets, he's listening, he's growing, he's learning.
Yeah.
We're all evolving together and, doing our own thing individually, but also as a community. And I think that that is a beautiful thing and that we've made great headway in the last few years. I really do. So I say kudos to all of us, anybody that embarks on trying to expand human consciousness and raise the vibration of this oppressive 3D plane of action.
Cheap plug, but if you guys have never gone on to the social media platform TikTok, and I know that's a whole nother political issue, whatever it may be, but you can find our TikTok there, and it's called the Paranormal Channel on YT, the Paranormal Channel on YT. And if you guys look for that, and maybe on Monday or Sunday rather, we'll put up the link again. One of the videos was during the pandemic. We were going live from the Rolling Hills Asylum, and there were investigators there, and they were catching these particular words that were coming through the box that just does the robot words. Ken, come on, give me the name of the device. Ovulus, thank you. And it said bury the, and they stopped. And I said, could you go closer to the wheelchair and finish the sentence, bury the what? And this was at the beginning of the pandemic. And it came back, bury the world. Bury the country. It was terrifying to see that. But there are things that we're still searching for with regards to answers. People all made discussions, suppositions, may have had questions. By the way, how come there's not been one question in the chat for any of the three of us so far tonight? I mean, normally we're on the show. No, I haven't seen one question yet.
There's one asking.
There you go. You guys take that one.
That's above my head. I can't answer that. Oh, there's no other questions out there. Like, what's the scariest place I've ever been to? But no, yeah. I know those will come up along those lines. You guys have been really great in commenting and listening in there. I just was making a joke.
Perfect. George is electronic technology create perfect communication between us alive and there where we go. And from there, where do we go? Is that I'm trying to extrapolate.
Yes, is Eric who's asking this.
Yep. I don't know. I'm terrified of AI. That's just me. I'm terrified of AI. I read recently about some work that was being done in, I do believe, God, I hope I get this right, in Taiwan, about some AI experimentation where they unleashed two computers and introduced them to each other, and they began to communicate. This is within the last year. And when they no longer wanted the humans that programmed them to know what they were saying, they created their own language and spoke to each other. Are either of you familiar with this? And it freaked the scientists out so much they destroyed both the machines.
It's the type of thing where, and I don't know, I think it's just scientists engaging in what they can get away with, because if you're going to introduce sentience into artificial intelligence, and the goal is to create essentially artificial sentient beings who can reason, and we want to give them as much personality as possible, I'm not sure that that's a good thing, because human beings, if the idea is to create thought, human beings are very volatile creatures. We all are. we have mood swings. We have good days, bad days. There's some, I mean, so what do you do? How does someone become evil?
Yeah.
They're a product of their environment. There are synapses that aren't firing like most do, sociopaths, whatever. But if you're going to create this type of thing, eventually it will happen that all these various elements of the human experience will be able to be discerned by artificial intelligence. I don't think that's the way to go. I don't think that's the way to go, because you are creating something that will eventually, I hate to say robot overlords, because that suggests some kind of Buck Rogers thing, but artificial intelligence, it frightens me as well, because we're already living it to some degree. We
to
really
some
are.
degree we are, but the big question is, just because we
text and
right,
all the rest of this crap. So I'll just close with, if Eric's talking about communication via, I don't know, nonverbal, putting the old chip in the brain or whatever that comes to, I think in a totally selfish sense, I think I'm probably pretty happy I won't be here by the time that happens.
That happens.
I don't want to read somebody's thoughts. I just think that interaction, we're very social creatures at the heart of it. Again, there are people who are psychotic and, but I just think that we're social creatures and lacking interaction. I mean, we're talking about the pandemic. The worst part was isolation, was it not?
Yeah.
I mean, we couldn't go anywhere, which is why, and I think you probably felt the same way when we decided, okay, let's do a show. Let's go on. People need something, but let's be moderately entertaining. Like, what would I want to hear? I want to think, but I also want to laugh. I need to laugh. I need that emotion. I need a couple of people up there making fools of themselves and funny faces and wearing stupid hats and things like that. So I think if we gave people anything in isolation, it was just the idea that they can take this off their shoulders, put it over here for a little while, and just have some fun. When we start getting into artificial intelligence and, you see a machine in front of you and it goes, ha, 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 run screaming. The end is near. They try to simulate laughter.
If you go back into, some of our greatest sci-fi writers, Isaac Asimov, Ray Bradbury, Gene Roddenberry. Okay, hold on. All right. Leave that on the screen for just a minute, Bill. I think
but you can't see Ken's expression.
Oh, that's true. Okay, take it down for just a second and then bring it back up when we're done. There he is. Oh, God, look at those eyes.
Kilroy.
I think that it begs the question, just because we can doesn't mean we should. Does it mean we should?
Yeah.
And so there's that. But, you've got to have some hold my beer moments. And you guys really have that, you've really got that down to a science. Bill, put your question back up, sweetheart.
Well, hang on. Before you do that, Bill, I wanted to respond to it, too. First of all, Mufon Eric clarified, and he was talking about the radios that the paranormal shows use, such as Spirit Box, things of that nature. First, in this line of thinking that you two were, the most terrifying movie with regards to AI to me has always been War Games. Terrifying.
Yes, terrifying.
And that was 30 some years ago that came out, if not more. So, I worry about that as well. But at the same time, as we just put it, I'm old enough now. It's fine. As long as I'm at one of the spots of ground zero, I'm fine with that. Whatever's going to happen. We are the creators of our own demons. So to
and
speak.
our own demise.
So as far as the radios and the shows, as Andrew spoke about earlier, Eric, I've used the spirit box many a time with success. There will always be, no different whether you use a Ouija board or dowsing rods, there will always be the naysayers, and be careful, and you don't know what you're speaking to or what you're talking to. You can say the same thing about what Cody and Satori are doing. We even had a behind the scenes discussion about that and the concerns about their interactions and their activities. There's risk in everything we do in this field. And if you don't understand that there is risk, then you should not be here. You should not be getting yourself involved with it. There is risk involved. But our pursuit is for the truth. Our pursuit is for answers. And somewhere along the way, hopefully with a technique, a device, a location, or person or persons, we can make that breakthrough somewhere in the future. Bill, I'm sorry.
I will add to that proper training and respect for the environment that you're entering.
Yes.
And a company car.
Well, I was thinking this when you both were having this discussion. I'm wondering if there are individuals that come together in one place that have had experiences or credible researchers like yourselves, Ken and George. If that creates an energy with all these individuals clustered in one area that makes the activity around that location increase because of that energy of the people that are there.
Environmentally, you mean?
Yeah, like no, you don't think. Well, I'll go off the air, but I'm curious to hear what because there are people that have group sightings or they shared experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering if when you have all those people that have had some kind of experience or have done this like yourselves, paranormal researchers, if that environment with the energy that's there with all those people that are present can increase the possibility of something happening in that location.
If I could just address this for one moment, and I'll just speak in terms of what I do with the galactic family, what I refer to as the galactic family. I can have 100 or 200 people out with me, and the bulk of them will have an experience. They'll capture it on their phones. They'll take photographs. They'll, take film footage, or they just have a very, very compelling experience. And then there are others that do not. Generally, what I have found over the many years that I've been doing this now is that even if they don't have what they consider to be a bona fide experience while they are out in that energized group of people that are so open to this, there's generally a reason. Either they're still fearful about it, or they're not ready. And
but that event that you're speaking of, Andrea, can happen with 3 people as well as 30. The same event can happen.
The dynamic is identical, George. You're absolutely right.
So it is not a coordinated energy that creates the visitation.
Right. Exactly. You finished my thought brilliantly. Thank you.
One or some that could manifest that like anything else. So, yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. But, again, that's the hard part. How many days out of the last 2 years has the Conjuring House been facing a barrage of investigators? And some have no activity. Some have dramatic activity. Some have self-manipulated activity. But there is no consistency to anything to say this onslaught, this barrage is going to produce more. How many of these historically haunted locations that are busy?
Let me give you something you can quantify here. A number of years ago, Princeton University, they put environmental sensors, and you can look this up online, in major American cities to monitor the environment. And what they found is in times of turmoil, whether we're talking 9/11 or assassinations or natural disasters, that the environment changed as people went through a common experience. That could be sadness, it could be joy, it could be prayer, could be any of those things. The program has been discontinued at this point, but they did this. And they found that collectively, human consciousness does actually connect to the point where our environment changes. In terms of an investigation, anytime a human being walks into the room, that environment changes. Either by, very subtly to the point it's hard to register. It could be temperature changes. It could be any one of a number of things. It could be a natural magnetic field, because we all carry those. So when you introduce humans into any condition, the environment will change, either dramatically or it can be very subtly, almost imperceptible as far as like measuring it. But if everybody is pulling on the same end of the rope and they focus their thoughts, and we do experiments on this at some of the events that we do. We're going to do it at the farmhouse in a couple of weeks, where we're going to have people that we're going to ask to focus their energy on a common response. What is it that you're looking for here? And we're going to measure the environment, and we're going to see if we get those results. So I am a believer that part of the human experience is this intertwined, this synchronatic type of connection we all have, and it can affect things, not just in a 10 by 12 room, but in any environment. So just my 2 cents on
And
that.
the one thing I've learned from the three of you is always to go into an environment with utmost respect, because if you go in otherwise, it's just not going to turn out well. And it's also, and it could endanger those people that it could still occupy that location themselves. It's affecting them on a personal level as well. It could be traumatic. So you guys continue the great work. Love it. And I know a lot of people are enjoying the show in the chat and watching. So have a great rest of your show.
Yeah, Bill, I think we got to do a little bit of a rapid fire. I saw a bunch of questions suddenly pop up. So
right.
why don't we start with the one that we had up first, and then we'll just go down from there. Sorry, Andrew.
Let's hit some questions. Let's bring it on. Yeah.
Sorry about
That's
that.
a wicked smart.
Yeah, I know. Well, I got 2 brainiacs with me tonight. I can just sit here and enjoy the show. Okay, Linda McKay wants to know. Hi, Linda. Oh, what a beautiful picture of her. Being that the consciousness field is omnipresent, and if all things are conscious on some level, are the AI really artificial? If all consciousness is alive, does the physical form matter? Now, see, it's brilliant questions.
Oh my
like
God.
that.
Hang on 1 second. I can't. Let me answer that. Hang on.
Yeah, right. This was the 70s.
Take it back to my college days.
I'm just getting over COVID, George. Don't make me laugh. I'll cough. Damn it.
That was deep. Oh my God.
No, we don't mean to. It's an outstanding question. I want to get out of the way, but going back to what I said, I just don't think artificial intelligence is organic. It is created. It is created by a human consciousness.
Yes.
So, and I'm not going to wax poetic about it. What do you guys think?
Well, we imbue it with our, our consciousness, elements of our consciousness, going back to what you said before. Okay, let's extrapolate this out. Is there anybody out there that thinks that a baby is born evil, or do they evolve? I used to work with children that were considered incorrigible, that were not able to be maintained in a public school setting. I worked at a private residential facility for behaviorally disordered, emotionally disturbed boys. I don't think that any of them were born evil. I think that they were made into little monsters, if that's where they were going, because of abuse and neglect and anger, that they were born into a world where they were abused and neglected, and that it had a tremendously negative effect on them as individuals in their own evolution, and that it was our job to turn that around. And, through the use of our own consciousness, our own compassion, our own ability to love them unconditionally as their therapeutic counselors, their clinicians, their, the people that did what we did to try to turn their lives around. I learned a lot from working in that environment. And, I think a lot of what goes on with human beings is very, very much like a computer, garbage in, garbage out. But that, machines don't have consciousness, nor do I think they will ever attain consciousness like we have. We're simply too complicated, in reference to what you said earlier, Ken. We're just simply too complicated. But if they do attain consciousness, it will be human consciousness, because we are the ones who imbue the technology with that, with all of its elements, its dynamics, and its complications built right in. And if there's an element of evil in us, no matter how good our intentions, how can that not be translated into that programming that must be instilled in the technology in order for it to attain a level of self-awareness, correct?
Yeah, it's all about reason, because if you are creating a machine, you're not trying to create volatility, you're trying to create consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Consistency is just not part of the human condition.
No, literally from moment to moment.
Yeah,
Literally.
Linda, the best way I can answer your question is, I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave. That's it.
I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave.
That's it. Next question. We're going to try to rapid fire these suckers because I know there were a few more on there.
Is it wrong to not have had any paranormal experiences but be extremely drawn toward it? There's nothing wrong with that at all, Athena. Oh my God, sweetheart. No, there's nothing wrong about that at all. You are on a voyage, an excursion of discovery, and you may never have the experiences that you seek, and you may never find the answers that you seek. And that is true of every single one of us, regardless of our background or our experiences. I tell people all the time, I'm an experiencer of, as of this year, as a 63-year-old woman, I have been a contactee since, for 50 years. I lived in, for 51 years. I've known for 51 years that there is something beyond our mortal existence. I still cannot tell you exactly what it is. If my family doesn't have the answers, nobody has the answers. Anybody that claims to is being disingenuous at best, and are dangerous at worst, run in the opposite direction. It's all about the exploration. It's about the journey. And it doesn't mean that we may never have the answers in this realm. We may not it could be that we're not supposed to have the answers in this realm. That is out of the equation, that we can seek, but may never find until we actually transform this ball of energy that we are into another form. Einstein said that energy is neither created nor destroyed. I think that scientifically that has stood the test of time. I don't think the jury is out on that anymore. And I think that the curiosity factor is the jet fuel. It's what keeps us searching, seeking, seeing. And, maybe, and if it gives you any hope, I will tell you this, dear. About maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was doing a thing up at Sault Ste. Marie in Michigan, where I call in. I ask them to please, come among us, make their presence known, the galactic family. And an elderly man who had attended the Paracon came up to me after it was all over. And, there was an awful lot of quiet. There were a few gasps and stuff that night, but it was a pretty quiet night. And I didn't realize until afterward that the reason that it was quiet, because everybody was so immersed in their own personal experiences of what was happening to them. Meanwhile, I'm thinking I'm standing there, failing miserably at what I had been successful at, prior to, which was a proper introduction to, our extraterrestrial family. And this very tall, slender man walked over to me, and he just draped himself over me and wrapped me in his arms and sobbed like a child. And once he was able to catch his breath, he said to me, "I'm 78 years old, and I have waited my entire life to experience what I did tonight. This changes everything for me. I will never be able to thank you enough." And he had been looking since he was a child. His belief in their existence was steadfast. His fascination, his curiosity kept him reading everything that was ever released on the subject matter. He was a ufologist before that term even existed. And it was that night that he saw something that changed everything. And he was, 78 years old. So I say never give up hope. Hope springs eternal. And if I have the opportunity, the pleasure, and the honor to meet you at an event, I will do my utmost to help you pry wide open your third eye so that you can have the experience that you crave, that you seek. But, be in touch with me. I might be able to talk you through some of this too. Just contact me through my Buttercup Brigade page. And Lenny, I know you're listening. Please, if Athena wants to talk with me personally, get her information, and I'll give her a call, because sometimes we close ourselves down to what we think we want, but there's still some fear-based carbon unit stuff going on in us that we're just a little, we have some trepidation about whether or not we want to cross that bridge, because with the notion that, not to mix my metaphors, but if you cross the bridge, you can't come back. If you open the door, you can't ever close it. So yes, wonderful, honey. Go to my Buttercup Brigade fan page on Facebook. Lenny, be in touch with Athena, honey, and get her contact information for me, and I'll give her a call and we'll talk about this, okay?
Can I just say, Athena, and you have a lovely name, by the way. I just need to say that.
Lovely.
I don't know if
well, she's a goddess. Isn't that obvious?
I've met an Athena. I would say I would look at it through this lens. You, like all of us, have probably never experienced space travel, time travel, or been to the deepest depths of the ocean, but it doesn't mean it's any less compelling to think about. So not having an experience does not preclude you from having a profound interest in the subject.
That's right.
The three that, I mentioned just as an example. So, keep asking questions.
Yes. Why can't I see ghosts, only feel them around me? Oh, Jonathan. Oh, sweetheart.
That's Jonathan. Hi, buddy.
I love that man. I love that man. Come to the farmhouse, sweetheart. We'll see if we can't hook you up there. But you know what? The thing is that you don't just see with the two eyes impaled in your skull. There's a thing called the third eye. And once that is pried wide open, it's amazing what will reveal itself. And I'll see you next weekend, sweetheart, and we'll see what we can do to rectify that for you, because I know how much you want to have that experience, and we'll be there together, and Ken will be there. And I think that, it might be next weekend that you have the experience you've been waiting for. I hope so.
I think that, Jonathan, real quickly, if it's part of,
Satori.
I think our hey story. I think it's part of our sense of the sensations we feel, because
Mhm.
you know
Yeah.
you can sense somebody sneaking up behind you.
Yeah.
We can do that kind of thing. So the idea that maybe you don't visually see something, but you can feel them, those innate senses that you have, maybe they're a bit more heightened in you and other people who have greater sensitivity to these things. And I envy you. I really do. I'm as like dense as a stump when it comes to that. I'm not feeling anything. It's the way I need all these gizmos and stuff. But we all have a heightened sense of, and I'm not calling this danger as though you're in some kind of danger because there's spirits around you. But we have this sense that, a lot of people will look around and see just before like a bus is about to run them over and get the hell out of the way without seeing it. So, I think it's part of, again, I keep talking about the human condition. I think it's part of that. It's part of our sensory overload that we have. And perhaps in you, it's a bit more heightened. And for those of you that are, I envy you, because I could save myself a lot of trouble just by going in a room and saying, yep, okay. But I'm dense, so I can't do it.
George does remote viewing,
Well,
which I've never. I mean, some of the experiences that I've had with George about things that he saw that happened 50 or 60 years ago at that farmhouse while my family lived there, and yet he's never actually technically stepped on the property. And I think that we all have different connections. I think that we're all intertwined, and we all have we're all tapping into the same. Oh, look who it is.
Say hello to Auntie Andrea and Uncle George.
Hi, darling. Oh,
Say
look
hi.
how precious. You might want to let him know he was born to save the world, but tell him there's no pressure.
he
Okay.
is too cute. Ken, you must be adopted.
I'm looking for likes and subscriptions right now. Tell them subscribe to our channel.
Yes.
Subscribe to our channel.
It's okay. Say hi to Buttercup.
Soundbite.
Say hi to Buttercup. There's my puppy. There's my girl. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I'll be down in a little while. Okay, so Grandma, come in. Take
I
that
want-
feather.
I want to address Jonathan with a story. I'll try to make it short, make it quick, Jonathan. And this is what is important and why your question struck a nerve. Some years ago, when I still had a paranormal team, I had a team member by the name of Amanda. And there were almost instant signs that she was trying to reach out to me. It only made sense. She knew I was a paranormal investigator, and she knew I would seek to make contact with her. And it was maybe not too long of a time after her passing, which was in a car accident, that we went out to the site of the crash. And as I was here at home getting ready, John, I felt the best way I could describe it was cobwebs on my hand. As I was letting her know that I was en route to her crash site, I felt the cobwebs and I pulled away. And then it hit me because Andrea's been to my house. My house is like the house of Zen. It's clean. I have cobwebs in the middle of the dining room. So I apologized and said, I didn't mean to do that. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. And God is my witness. The cobwebs went around my shoulders and around my back like a hug. It's not the first time I felt that sensation. I felt that at the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. It is a legitimate sensation. And I will say this to you, Jonathan. The feeling of them being around strikes more of an impact to me than the sight of them. because there's contact. You can see something, an apparition, all well and good, but to know that you are making a connection, whether it's someone that you know or someone that you don't, I think is the most magical part of this field. And I just wanted to share that with you.
When you feel that, there is intent. We use that word a lot. Intent is everything. You may call it respect or however you want to frame that. It depends on your intention. In the last, whatever it is, amount of time we've done this, I am convinced that spirits are there. It's a matter of calling upon them and focusing your attention and intention on that contact. You may not get a response. You're not going to get like an out loud voice probably. But trust me when I say the thought process is enough. And you have to go on faith that your conversation, your questions, your communication is going to be heard. We haven't really bridged that gap on a large scale as far as acknowledgement. We haven't done that yet. There are instances in the case of Cody Satori that appear to have been able to do that. This is, I cannot stress how uncommon this is. Amazing. But I'm convinced and they would better tell you this story than me, where I've been in the room and literally had my thoughts read, for lack of a better word. When the tapping away, Ken thinking about me. I'm like, really? So when you sense them, if you have no problem with this, as George was saying, feel free to reach out subconsciously, mentally, telepathically, whatever word you want to apply to it. And you may not get gratification by that instantly, but I'm convinced you can be heard. So that's what I have to say about it.
Yeah. Andrea and I ran the lecture circuit for, I guess, about 2 years. And I was on a crusade. I think I'm still on the same crusade. I think I've still mentioned it on the show. Jonathan, as you were talking about there, about the presence, but not seeing them. You run the recorders, and maybe you'll get a monosyllabic response. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get a sentence that maybe doesn't fit into the category of your questions. And you're excited about that. Or you take a picture, and there's an orb, and you get excited about that, which is all well and good. But the ultimate goal, in my mind, and similar to what Cody and Satori are achieving because of the responses, is being able to have that throughout the field where you are able to reach your grandma or your spouse or your sibling or your child, and it's the touch of a hand in confirmation, or it's a voice disembodied or recorded in confirmation that they say, I'm here, I'm fine, go on with your life. To me, I think should be the ultimate achievement, not what happens after we die.
That's right.
But to go on.
That's right. And the comfort that it provides us, George. We've talked so often about this. The comfort that knowledge, it's not wish fulfillment, it's not faith, it's not a belief system. You can have these experiences regardless of your own spiritual beliefs. It is a higher level of love. It is a comfort and a peace, a tranquility, knowing that they've gone on and yet are still in some way with us. You know what? When Cody and Satori do their thing and people come through, isn't it almost always to express their affection for someone they left behind, to acknowledge that they know that that person has been grieving, and it's all right to let go. Oh, I'm not really gone. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And Ashley, I believe it was Ashley's question, seems to blend beautifully into that. Bill, if you would be so kind as to put that back up again and look at that absolutely beautiful photograph of her. I don't even know if that's her or it seems like a vintage photograph. That's stunning. And I don't know what it is, but I have a sense of familiarity with her. So maybe she's somebody that I know personally, but her question is, do you believe in the possibility of time travel and that humans, governments have ability and knowledge of this? Greetings from the mountains and forests of Washington State. Yes, an absolutely lovely, lovely corner of our country. You know, I don't know. You know, I mean, In a Flicker has elements of that in it that were so compelling as I read what George wrote about it, that it almost convinced me that this could actually be real. I don't know how much I even believe in the essential nature of time, if it is real or if it's an illusion. I don't know how to answer that question. I guess that's the most honest that I can be, but I'd be fascinated to hear what George and Ken have to say about it.
Go, buddy.
Residing in Washington State, Ashley, I can tell you this right now for a fact. Only Bigfoot knows how to time travel.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, of course.
You did.
I want to hunt Bigfoot in Washington State in the fall. In the fall. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Ken?
It's a farmhouse first. Real quickly, is it possible? Theoretically, yes. This is how people like Michio Kaku and people of that ilk who are way smarter than we are. Theoretically, yes. I don't think that. I think the government understands it to the same level we do.
Yeah.
I think that we're on the same plateau of that. I don't think I would never say it's not possible. It's just not on our radar at this point. There's a theoretical understanding of it. If I could backtrack for a minute, there was a question and
hang on. But before that, go ahead and Bill, put up what Ashley had just put up there again, just to prove it. Thank you. And you guys thought I was joking. Thank you very much, Ashley.
I agree with
Portals in the forest. I've always said if Sasquatch exists, it's an interdimensional creature. Otherwise, we'd have found a corpse by now. It just comes and goes as it pleases.
He's real. It's real. I can wax on about why I think it's real through anthropological reasoning, but there was, and Bill, you don't have to go get it, but somebody asked a question I'm paraphrasing here, why do ghosts come back to traumatize the living? And someone actually answered this, and this was a while back, saying it's very rare. It was the correct answer. It is extremely rare. It's like when people talk about demonic hauntings, they are extremely rare. The idea of ghosts coming back to traumatize people, we can speculate on the reasons why, unfinished business, whatever. I'm not suggesting it doesn't happen. I'm saying it happens in extremely rare cases. But like everything else, those are the ones you're going to hear about because they are titillating and they get attention. No one cares to see a paranormal TV show about grandma coming back and everybody's happy and everybody's loving. And you have those shows out there and they touch your heart. But for the most part, they're going to feed you evil and demonic and fearful and trauma. So
I have
a great question, but don't fool yourself into thinking it's just such a, prevalent.
There's a whole dynamic in the field of paranormal that is its whole stock and trade is fear. The whole stock and trade is fear. Always be cognizant of that. George?
I'm in my office in the garage, and there's a spider that is tormenting me right now. Why? Because I do not have enough knowledge of whether or not that spider is poisonous or not. It's probably just waiting to catch insects and survive and build its nest, and has no interest in me whatsoever. In the same situation, when people have encounters with spirit, they demonize it, they villainize it, and not really understanding the purpose of that appearance. And that's one of the things we try to do, whether it's on the shows or in person, is to educate, let people know, this is the reasons why, and look for that first before you look for the mainstream media version of what it is that you're dealing with.
But
Always
in
keep
both
that in mind.
cases,
That's
don't
right.
sleep with your mouth open.
Yes.
And don't sleep with your mouth open. But oh my God, Bill, you're such a wuss. Okay, two things. George, consider the lowly spider. They live in the castles of kings. There's that, first and foremost. Second of all, we fear what we do not understand, very much like the opening quotation that I use on the show, paraphrased from Madame Curie. Now is the time to know more so that we may fear less. And, isn't that at a rudimentary level the common denominator why the three of us do what we do? So that we can know more, so that others may fear less. I'm not fearful. Ken's not fearful. George is not fearful. We're so steeped in this that, fear went out the window a long time ago for all of us. Thank you, Bill. We have 2 minutes, guys. We're going to have to wrap this up. But, I could
to next week.
I could not be more pleased to have welcomed both of you to the show tonight. I think that the conversation was engrossing, and that, both of you are brilliant beyond measure. And I'm so grateful to call both of you my dear friends. I love you with all my heart. And for those that tuned in to watch this, I hope that you were not only, intellectually stimulated, but that you were emotionally moved by the subject matter that we covered tonight, because now is the time for us to make a quantum leap forward into the future, that we write our own destiny and then we live into it. And so I would close the show out tonight with words that I share frequently with others, and particularly those I love. Be the beacon, be the light you seek. All is well, and so it is. I love you all. Thank you for coming tonight, and have a wonderful weekend.
All right.